And now, you're tuned in to RBLR, the home of Tampa Bay's Reveler Sports.
Hello, everyone out there in Tampa Bay and beyond. This is James Knowles coming at you for the RBLR Sports Podcast. I am here tonight to cover the Rowdies, as I usually do, and I am back tonight with Carlos, my usual co-host. How are you doing, Carlos, in your own house tonight?
I'm good, James. I'm good. I was in LA all last week. Shout out to Nick for tapping in last week and covering very nicely. Yeah, it was a great time. I've been volunteering for the last few years with this group. It's called the Hispanic Scholarship Fund. If you're looking for a group to donate money to, I always tell people this is such a great place to look. They fly out kids, Hispanic high school students from all across the country to LA, help them out with college applications. They get them in a really great school. It's a really, really, really great program, and it's all free of charge to the kids. It's such a great time.
Nice.
So it is a really, really super rewarding time. I got to see a little bit of LA, which was nice. Got to walk around Santa Monica Pier, see the Venice Beach and all that fun stuff. But I'm back in the greatest city in the world, Tampa, Florida. And James, there's a soccer team that plays not in Tampa, but in the Tampa Bay area that you and I usually cover. They had a big win this week. Before we talk about any of that, because I'm really, really excited to talk about that. How's it going in your life, James?
Things are going pretty well for me. Unfortunately, this past weekend, I was unable to make it to the watch party because, as it turns out, I almost certainly had COVID. My wife tested positive yesterday, but I'm glad that I did not go on Saturday, because it definitely would have been worse for everybody who was at the watch party if I had been there. So unfortunate that I couldn't go. Ultimately glad I didn't, for my own sake and, of course, the sake of everyone who was there. We thank you, everyone who did go. Please join us in the future when I won't be sick with COVID, almost certainly, and I can actually go back to Berry House and hopefully enjoy your presence all the same. But yes, Carlos, as you mentioned, the game that they were watching this past weekend, the Rowdies went away and beat Indy 11 2-0 in Indiana. Crazy because, well, I guess it's not crazy, but it was definitely unexpected for a lot of us. So very, very good result to see that. Like I said, thank you to everyone who joined us at Berry House, and we hope that you can do so again in the future. In our own standings, only Eureka got a point because he said that the Rowdies would win. So very good call from Eureka. He and Carlos now sit on 9 points and top our standings. So well done to them. We have another chance for predictions, and we will do the preview for the game this weekend versus Charleston. That will be back at Al Lang. And we also sold Charlie Dennis this past week, I guess.
Yeah.
So that's something we're going to have to talk about, but that will be later on in the show. We've got a lot to cover even before we get to that. So let's just get through everything beforehand. Like and subscribe to us on YouTube, of course, and subscribe to us on any major podcast platform. And of course, please follow us on social media, wherever you are: Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, Facebook, Threads, wherever you may be. Check us out at RBLR Sports. That's where we are. Carlos, let's get into it.
Let's jump into it, James. It was a fun one in the great city of Indianapolis. I love Indianapolis, by the way. Super underrated city. If you ever have a chance to go visit, it's a good place. Really cool stuff over there. Anyway, great city, but wasn't a great time to be at this game if you're an Indy 11 fan. The Rowdies went away and, like we said, beat Indy 11 2-0, with the lineup including Jordan Farr in goal as per usual, Doherty in the back with Kleeman and Guillen. Pacific Nyongabire was out on the wing along with Manjoma on the other side. Crisostomo and Hilton were between them in the midfield. And Cal Jennings was up top with Manuel Arteaga and Joshua Perez. The Rowdies certainly started pretty well, James. Cal Jennings had a really good look just like 5 minutes into the game. It kind of set the tone for the rest of the game. The Rowdies certainly were not messing around in this one. And certainly not seemingly not suffering from the turf monster we seem to all too regularly point to as an excuse for bad away performances. Was not the case on this one. They went away to Indy, had a fantastic game. Cal Jennings would score the opening goal early in the second half, right? Right before the first half ended. It was pretty late into the first half in the 36th minute. It was a corner kick goal. He flicked on with kind of the back of his head. It's a really, really, really nice goal. Those headers are so challenging, James. Running into the ball and flicking it back. Really, really impressive stuff from him. Really an all you can, all-around striker, Kyle Jennings, proved it again on this one. It was Rivera that would score the second goal later on in the game in the 80th minute. A lovely goal right after he came on as a sub. Truly a super sub, continuing to prove that in this one. He put the game away, made it 2-0, and put the game out of reach for Indy 11, making it another Rowdies victory, James. A big, big win. Maybe one that you and I might not have been as optimistic about. A game we didn't think we could have such a great performance in. Indy 11 is a team that has had a stellar middle portion of this season, James, going undefeated for a number of games. And by the way, knocking off Atlanta United just a couple weeks ago. This is a team that is certainly in great form, a team with a former Rowdy, Sebastian Guenzati, who's finding a good form. Augie Williams, a really, really well-rounded team that couldn't overcome the Rowdies at home. So a fantastic game. I really want to get your thoughts on this, James, in just a second. Before we do any of that, let me just give you the standings update. Orange County beat San Antonio, and Sacramento had a huge win against Oakland. They're back, by the way, in a 5-2 thriller for them. In the East, Louisville City stayed in first place with 41 points from 19 games. They're 1 point ahead of the Charleston Battery with a game in hand on them. By the way, Charleston Battery, the opponent for this week, that's a big one. We'll talk about that later on. Yep. We're third with 35 points, 5 points behind Charleston Battery with a game in hand. Again, another big reason why we're going to talk about this game this weekend. It's going to be a huge one. There's so much to talk about. Oh, my God, James. And we're 4 points ahead of Indy 11 now with this win. This was a big one. It put a little bit of space in between us and Indy and set us up for a potentially massive match this weekend against Charleston. Out in the West Coast, New Mexico United have 35 points from 17 games to lead the Western Conference. Sacramento jumped to second with 32 points from 19 games. Again, they're back. That was a huge win for them against Oakland, blowing Oakland out. Oakland now left in their dust with 29 points, sitting in third place. James, a thrilling week of soccer in the USL. You missed a lot of great stuff if you weren't keeping up. Let me just mention Miami FC still has 8 points. 20 games in. I have to mention them. It's a weekly Miami FC check-in when we do the standings update. Oh my goodness, that's so loud. I'm so sorry. And yeah, James, that's where we're at right now. Let's jump into this game because I'm really, really excited to talk about this one. There was so much going on. I'm thrilled about the win, obviously, but I'm even more thrilled about how we got the win. It was an all-around really, really good performance. So, James, let's just talk about that first half. Let's jump into it how we usually do, break it into halves here. First half started pretty well, faded a little bit, got back into it with a Kyle Jennings goal. It was a set piece, wasn't really a big open play opportunity, but certainly a great goal nonetheless. Tell me about what you saw in that first half. What did you see? How do you see things playing out? Did you see it fade, or am I kind of observing that incorrectly? And tell us about that Kyle Jennings goal, man. What a goal. Oh, my God.
Yeah, the goal was great, and we'll get there in a second. But no, I definitely agree with you that it started really well for us, and then we kind of tapered off a little bit. But I think that wasn't a tapering off of us in terms of our intensity or anything. It was just that, well, it is intensity, but what I mean to say is that the first 15 minutes of that first half, we were firing on all cylinders, not only with the execution, but also with the intensity. And it's very hard to keep that up over 90 minutes, of course. So unfortunately, we didn't get the goal in the first 15 that everyone is always trying to get. So you got to kind of settle down a little bit, play your way into the game at a normal pace, make sure that you keep yourself in the game for the full 45 of the first half and the second 45 minutes. So that is actually, I think, what the Rowdies were going for there. But as you said, the Rowdies did start very well in those first 15 minutes. Boy, I was blown away, honestly. We have talked so much in the lead up to this game, as well as many others, about how the Rowdies have a really tough time in 2024 going away from home, about how that Rowdies in 2024 have an even tougher time playing on turf. And Carlos, we didn't see any of that in this game. Almost, we not only did I wouldn't say that the Rowdies played their usual game to the same extent that we might see at Al Lang, hopefully, let's say this weekend versus Charleston. But I do think that the Rowdies showed a lot of that when we had the ball. I was expecting, and I said this multiple times. I said this when we previewed the game. I said this in the pregame show. When Eureka was the only one at Berry House, he had me on for the pregame, and I said the same thing then, that we probably were going to have to approach this game versus Indy 11 differently because of the conditions, and one of those main conditions was the turf. But Carlos, I guess the only thing that I can say going forward, I think the Rowdies might have really hurt themselves if they do lose on turf and they say, "Oh, the turf came back to bite us." Well, I'm sure that there's better and worse turf out there, but we know from this past weekend that they can play on that. They can absolutely do it.
Yeah. And I'll tell you what, like I feel like the turf monster, and I see the Rowdies Twitter and Instagram comments talking about turf as like a boogie monster sometimes. Oh, sorry, a boogeyman sometimes. It's kind of like a term I think we throw around as one of the variety of reasons we can excuse a poor performance away. Um, I, certainly a factor. And we've talked with players like and Cal Jennings mentioned this when we talked with him
Yep.
just a few weeks ago, right? The turf certainly plays differently, objectively. It's a factor. It happens. And the reality is that it certainly changes the way you play a game. The ball moves differently. You have to move differently because of that. But the reality is that the Rowdies are such a great team. This roster is so good, and we have such a great system going that we should be able to overcome that challenge against most teams in this league. And like you said, if we were able to do that, overcome that challenge against a team like Indy 11 that is not far behind us in the table, but also not far behind us at like a talent level,
Yeah.
um, away from home in India, like in Indianapolis. Yeah, I mean, this is great stuff. And we have had our injury issues, and we lost a player recently, and Charlie Dennis, obviously, and we lost another player to Rhode Island and Zach Aravo. So maybe we're limiting ourselves in our roster numbers, but it seems like the players we have on the field, the players we have at our availability at our disposal currently, are able to take on this challenge away from home with the turf monster. Like it seems like it's a very plausible possible thing. So this game, James, gives me waves of confidence going forward because we're just barely getting into the second half of the season. There's still so much soccer to be played. We're gonna have more away games. We're gonna have more away games on turf against good teams, right? Charleston Battery. I can't think if they have turf or not, but like that's a game that we're gonna have to play away from home relatively soon in September. I mean, it's gonna be a big one, I'm sure, when we play them. We're gonna have to go away to Louisville later on in the year. Like there's still big away games left to play, and this gives me a massive wave of confidence that we can live up to that challenge and meet that challenge head on. Um, when the playoffs come around, hopefully, I'm not taking anything for granted, but assuming we're in the playoffs and we have some away games, maybe this game feels like a game that we can point to and be like, if we can do it here, we can do it. Right. Indy 11 is one of the better teams in the league in the past few months. They've been on an incredible tear. So I'm really, really happy about this game. It was an all around performance, James. Like I'm starting big picture and I'm going to work my way back in here. It truly all around great performance. It seems like we fully outplayed Indy. This was not a fluke by any means. Indy had their chances. Don't get me wrong. They had a certain few chances, but I think the stats as well as like the eye test show that the Rowdies were certainly I'm not gonna say dominant, right? Like I don't think it was like that one sided, but we outplayed them in their stadium. We could have had way more goals than we did. But a few mistakes, a few good saves from their keeper. Arteaga whiffed what would have been an easy 1-0 off of a corner early on off that corner kick. Do you remember that? Just the one off the top of my head right now. But yeah, I mean, this was an all-around performance, James, and I'm really, really happy with how it went. I think that Cal Jennings goal in that first half came at a really good time. If you recall, that came right after Indy had probably one of their best chances of the game. So maybe a little bit fortunate in that way. I think if things went slightly differently in the universe, was slightly in Indy's favor, Indy scores that goal, we never have that chance on the corner kick, and they're up 1-0, and it's a totally different game. So maybe a little bit of luck, but I think it also comes down to the talent and composure of this team to be able to take the pressure Indy was applying and turn that into a corner kick, and Cal Jennings to turn that into an insanely awesome header. Really, really great. but like I'm not sure we can like fully describe how difficult that goal is for a player. Like I really want to take a second to like fully appreciate that, because Cal Jennings moving away from the goal in such a narrow angle between him and the goal, like a narrow angle for a shot in there, to be able to even like make contact that goes vaguely in that direction is so insanely impressive. But it was something that they clearly worked on, because if you notice in the corners, like leading up to it, there'd been a couple looks at that near post, and it finally worked on that one. So it was certainly part of the game plan. Seems like
Yeah.
something they've been working on. So kudos to Robbie Nielsen and the staff for having a game plan for these corners. It's nice to know that even without Forrest Lasso, we can put away a corner every once in a while. And it worked out nicely here. So all around great stuff from that first half. Really love to see a set piece goal, because it doesn't happen too often for us.
Not often enough.
Yeah. And again, especially with Lasso out, that takes away probably our biggest threat off set pieces. So it's nice to see that we can still do that. Truly an all around good performance. I'm really, really happy with where we're at. I'll save my thoughts for the second half here in just a little bit. But James, did you see anything else in that first half? I'm looking back at the highlights too. We had another really good look here on a shot from, oh my goodness, was it a Jordan Doherty header? I'm blanking right now. I lost it. But there was another great look right after the Arteaga header before our first goal. Like we were creating opportunities, especially early on in that half. But like you said, it might have dropped off slightly as Indy got back into the game a bit more before we got that goal back. Am I missing anything from that first half? Anything notable that you want to mention here?
Well, I wouldn't say that you're missing anything in terms of broad strokes to cover the game here, but to get into it a little bit more, and I suppose we could save this for after the game, but I kind of want to jump into it now. The big chances, according to FOTMob, that is the big chances stat for the Tampa Bay Rowdies was 4. And the big chances missed stat was 4. So keep that in mind, Carlos. You just pointed out that the Rowdies probably could have won by more than 2 goals, and that is absolutely the case here. The only other thing that I wanted to highlight before the game from when it actually started here, this quote came from Robbie Nielsen in the press release afterwards. So, quote, yesterday was a tough travel day for us. We didn't get to the hotel until about 2 in the morning. Thanks to support from the staff and the Rowdies and the Rays, we got a flight up here because it was very difficult. So the support we received was brilliant. I thought the performance of the players matched that. They worked hard, and I thought we controlled a lot of the game, and I think we deserve to win it. Yes, I do think that we deserve to win it, and I think that we played very well. But it's remarkable that the Rowdies did have this kind of performance under all of the conditions that we had already talked about, and the fact that they had apparently been sleep deprived along the way. So, yeah, it's a really, really good indicator of hopefully how things will continue to go in the future, how things will go when we play other teams, the ones that you had mentioned specifically. Those are going to be extremely important. And I do like the way that this was going. Cal Jennings, as you said, already had a very, very good goal, but that's a very low chance if you ultimately think about how many players were in between his head and the goal that he actually put the ball into.
Yeah.
So we probably had better chances to score that we did not put in. Obviously, according to FOTMob, we did anyway. But yeah, this is very promising all around that we were able to create so many good opportunities, and we didn't even get any of those goals off of them. Also, the clean sheet there were a couple of hairy moments, but getting a clean sheet every single time you can do that, it's very important because it's another confidence booster. It's not just a confidence booster to score and win games. Obviously, that helps, but if you can keep a clean sheet, that means that you're less worried about going on a dribble and giving up the ball, because you know that you have the defenders or the goalkeeper or both that are going to be able to keep the ball out of the net. And when you stay, if you don't give up a goal, you stay in a game at the very least. 0-0 is a draw, and that counts as a point in this sport. So we can take that to the bank as much as a point will get us. But if you can keep yourself in the game, you always have a chance to go and win a game, because at least you will go and get a 1-0 win if you score. It's like when the U.S. played Uruguay, and that goal that certainly was not a goal. It was definitely offside, scored by Uruguay, went in, and that really took the wind out of their sails, even though they had not created very many chances before. The U.S. had so much trouble going and moving forward because they knew that they had to get 2 goals at that point to try and win the game. At least if they didn't give up a goal, they would have had to just go and get 1. This is all very good for our confidence as a team. And I love the way that this club seems, we've said this before, Carlos, but I love the way that this club seems to be starting to get together in all the right ways. And the last thing that we needed was some real consistency. We're going to see if this is the consistency that we're referring to and that we're really hoping we get into. But those are a bunch of overarching things. So let's get into the second half a little bit more.
Yeah. And let me just say here, by the way, this is something I forgot to mention. I forgot to mention Kleeman's now 3 starts in a row. Obviously, earlier on in the year with Forrest Lasso, he wasn't really getting those starts. But even after Lasso's injury, he's had like inconsistent minutes. He's come in later on, or it's been like Guillen, Doherty, and Manjoma on that back line with Barry and Bodley. This has now been Kleeman's 3rd start in a row. The last 3 games, he's had really, really solid performances, and we haven't given him a ton of credit. But definitely deserves a shout out here, by the way.
And that is consistency as well.
Yeah, this is solid performances now. 3 starts in a row. You look at his FOD-MOP ratings as well. They're all 7.4, 7.3, 7.6. A pretty significant change from the games before that. So great stuff from him. And yeah, like you said, in that first half, so many, like a few other missed opportunities. It was Eddie Manjoma, by the way, who I was looking for. It was that Eddie
that's right.
It was a pass from Jordan Doherty, not the header from Jordan Doherty. It was a pass from Jordan Doherty. Eddie Manjoma was on the back post, had a wide open look, and just sailed it over the bar. And you could tell he was really frustrated with himself after that, because he knew it was a really, really, really good look. Easily could have been a 1-0, the 1-0 opportunity. Yeah, again, great first half from the Rowdies. Just to cap it all off, it was the Cam Lindley shot that I was looking for as well. These YouTube highlights are so helpful sometimes. Oh my God, great for notes. Right before Cal Jennings' goal, literally a minute before Cal Jennings' goal, that took the wind out of any Indy 11 momentum they were building in that first half. Sure, they had their opportunities later on in the second half. There were a few of them, but it was the Rowdies ended up taking control that first half, especially taking the winds out of those Indy 11 sails with that Cal Jennings goal. Okay, James, second half now. Right, that was everything in the first half. No other crazy opportunities for the Rowdies. Manuel Arteaga. Oh, okay, yeah. Hold on, YouTube reminded me again. There was that like half chance from Manuel Arteaga, a great little back heel from Cal Jennings right before the end of the half. Arteaga runs onto it from the top of the box, rips a shot at goal, goes right to the keeper, but a pretty dangerous chance nonetheless. Okay, second half, James. What are we looking at? What did you see happen? How did you see this play out? Because like we said, it wasn't until the 80th minute that Damien Rivera actually scores the goal that puts this game basically out of reach. So there was a good, 35 minutes of play before that goal happened. How did you see that play out? Did you see us controlling that game, or were we kind of just hanging on until Damien Rivera, the super sub, the New England legend, the Ryan Spalding maybe of this season, came in and put the game away?
Well, yeah. So I would not say that we were holding on. Certainly, there were 2 big things that impacted the half before we got to the goal, because obviously the goal was the biggest thing that happened within the second half. But it was kind of weird, the substitution patterns in this game. In the 65th minute, Indy 11 made 3 substitutions. And then in the 75th minute, so another 10 minutes after that, the Rowdies made 3 substitutions. And that happened, and each of those happened at one time. So Elliot Collier for Sebastian Guinzotti, Tyler Gibson for Lawrence Wooten, and Ben Mines for Augie Williams. That all happened for Indy in the 65th minute, and that kind of changed things up. And Elliot Collier, I think, was he was probably the most important of those. Ben Mines was the player that we had highlighted before this game as the likely starter at the right wingback spot for Indy. As it happens, he is coming off of some type of injury. We don't know exactly what, because we don't follow them as closely as Indy 11 fans do. But he did not start the game, so he came off the bench. Elliot Collier, though, the one who moved up top, he is just a giant body. He's extremely hard to move. He's actually quite nimble for someone who's as big as he is, because you would think that someone from his size and coming from New Zealand would have ended up playing rugby or something. I don't know how he got into this
Yeah.
sport, but he is just a very hard body to move around, and he will use that to good effect. And he did so quite a few times. Luckily, though, we were able to handle it and really didn't let him create a ton of chances. I believe it was in the game beforehand, the game that Indy 11 played before this past weekend, I should say. I was watching the highlights, and Elliot Collier was able to create chances just because he could receive the ball, players down his back, and he can kind of turn as if they're not there because he's big enough to do that.
Yeah.
So that was all very well and very good on us to be able to handle him. And Eddie Manjoma continued to play his left wing back spot even after the substitution that happened in the 75th minute. And he defensively handled Ben Mines on the right side for Indy. So that was all well done there. Like I said, then in the 75th minute, the substitutions happened for the Rowdies. Blake Bodley came on for Josh Perez. Damian Rivera came on for Cal Jennings. That one was the big substitution of these ones. And Nate Worth came on for Danny Crisostomo. So Josh Perez and Danny Crisostomo are the two players who act as our central midfielders in front of Lewis Hilton. Lewis Hilton obviously sits in front of the back line. Josh Perez interacts on the left side, usually with the left wing back, whoever that is. It's been Eddie Manjoma. Danny Crisostomo does this on the right side with the right wing back, whoever it's been, recently Pacific Nyongabire. Both of those guys came out, and it was a little weird, the system that we switched to, because I assumed that Pacific Nyongabire would be moved up, Eddie Manjoma would be moved to the right, Blake Bodley would take his position out on the left. That's not actually what happened. Nate Worth almost played as the highest of these central midfielders, and Damian Rivera. I should say Damian Rivera did play the highest, but Nate Worth was the highest in the central midfield because Blake Bodley actually became the partner of Lewis Hilton in the center of the midfield, and they played kind of as a double pivot in front of our back line. And it was really weird to see because I didn't know that Blake Bodley had played that way in his career.
Yeah.
I assumed that he would just be the left wing back because that's what he usually is. That's where he usually goes. It was kind of like we had more defensive stability because we had an extra defensive piece in the center of the midfield. He's certainly more defensive than Josh Perez. But at the same time, Blake Bodley had plenty of license to get forward. So, yeah, we weren't necessarily hanging on or anything up until that period. It was just weird to see when the substitutions happened exactly how we went about changing the lineup and going from there. Either way, Damian Rivera is able to break through and create the goal. But I'll turn that over to you, Carlos, because you were very high on this as well.
Oh my God, this goal was so lovely. And like I said, there was I'm counting at least 3, maybe 4 big opportunities for us before this goal, by the way. We could have easily been up another 2 or 3 goals before Damian Rivera makes his impact on this game felt. Kyle Jennings had a really, really good look early on in that half that I thought was a surefire goal when that pass was made. That duo between Arteaga, the Arteaga Jennings duo is so fun to watch. Arteaga makes a defensive play here, passes in a lovely looping ball to Cal Jennings, who's one-on-one with the keeper. Indy 11 keeper makes a fantastic save on that. Then Arteaga later on has 2 quite literally back-to-back opportunities in the 73rd and 74th minute. Shoots it right at the bottom right corner both times. Goalie makes a big save both times. 2 really good looks. I thought at least one of them would be a goal for sure. Damian Rivera comes in right after that opportunity in the 75th minute and makes his impact felt in the 79th, 80th minute. Yeah, 80th minute. So it was a shot from, let me go back and look at this. The shot from Doherty. Doherty sees some space and takes a rip, which is nice to see because he doesn't really do that too often. No, it was more of a looping ball. He's looking for literally anybody. It was kind of a bad ball. Throws it in the mix, sees what happens. Indy 11 header, pushes it away, but it lands right at the feet of Damian Rivera, who's wide open, by the way. Not a single player around him. He's got at least 5 feet of space between the Indy 11 defender behind him. There's 2 Indy 11 defenders rushing to him here, and all he has to do is dink it to the left. He just kind of hesitates for a second, kind of makes him think he's going to shoot it, and then just accelerates out of nowhere, pushes it to the left, finds a little bit of space and just drills it near post with the left foot. And it was such a beautiful goal. Like, it was so perfectly well done and well executed. The little hesitation he did to like make all 3 Indy 11 defenders around him bite gave him just enough time to make that space, take that space, and then still he had to have an incredible finish. Like, he did everything he needed to do, and then the hardest part was actually making that finish happen. And he did that. A near post shot, a blast right by that Indy 11 goalie. It truly was a very Damien Rivera goal. You know, super sub, comes in later in the game, takes on some players by himself and scores. That's what I really, really love about this player. I think that's what Robbie Nielsen really loves about this player, is the energy he has, the ability to take on players one-on-one, and in this case, take on 3 players at the same time and make space. That's Damien Rivera soccer right there. That's what he does. He dribbles it, he finds that space, and he makes it. Or if there is no space, it seems like he just makes it out of nothing. In this case, that's what he did. A fantastic, fantastic goal to put the game out of reach for Indy 11. By the way, in this half, I can't think of an opportunity Indy 11 had that was particularly dangerous, actually. I can't. The USL highlights have this chance in the 84th minute from Romario Williams off of a Rowdies turnover. Romario Williams gets it, has actually a decent amount of space to try and put the ball in frame, and skies it wide to the left. That was their only chance. I don't know if Thought Mob would count that as a big chance, maybe. But that was it. Honestly, I'm looking at Thought Mob's stats, and they have Indy 11 as having had 3 big chances. I don't really know where they get that from.
Yeah.
Like,
I don't know.
I think to have 3 big chances, you would have to include this Romario Williams opportunity as a big chance. And if that's what they're doing, the bar is relatively low. So maybe the Indy 11 stat keeper was being a bit generous here for them. He had a little bit of space. It still would have been a tough finish regardless, even if it was on frame. But yeah, I mean, he skied it way, way, way left. Yeah, Jordan Farr didn't even have to reach out for it. And that was it. That was Indy 11's opportunity in the second half. Romario Williams not having a particularly great game in this one. I'm going to fact check myself because was it him or maybe there's an Indy 11 striker who's just not particularly living up to the expectations. They're struggling to find their goals. I want to say it might be Augie Williams. Whatever. Point being, we shut them down. This is the team, by the way, that started Romario Williams, Augie Williams, and Sebastian Guenzati as their front 3. That's a dangerous team, right?
Yeah, it should
Romario
be.
Williams,
Certainly should be.
Augie Williams, and Sebastian Guenzati, a front 3 that no team in this league should be this prepared to play against, except the Rowdies. Maybe it helped that we know Sebastian Guenzati. Probably not. I don't think it really affects like how well or not well we're able to contain this attack. But man, like, I think this was a truly impressive showcase of this Rowdies midfield in particular, being able to kind of stifle these opportunities and get in the way of things. I think that's a testament to Lewis Hilton's continued success as a Rowdies central midfielder, to his duo with Crisostomo in the midfield. I think those 2 have been an incredible pairing. Joshua Perez tracking back when he needs to. Manjoma and Yangobire have had continued good games, solid games at that wingback spot. Manjoma in particular has had great defensive performances recently from that wingback spot. I'm really glad to see Blake Bodley coming back in slowly because I think he adds more of an attacking threat than Manjoma does. But Manjoma has been filling in that role very, very well, and certainly playing the defensive side of that very, very well. I think all of that combined came to fruition in this one. Shut down what should be a really, really potent Indy 11 attack that did not produce much at all, and certainly and obviously didn't produce a goal, which is why it ended up 2-0. So a fantastic game, fantastic second half. I think the unsung heroes of this one will be that central midfield and the back line that had another great game, stopping things before it even really happened. I think the reason why there's not many Indy 11 highlights is because of those unsung heroes that stopped these chances before there weren't chances, right? I think it's a testament to Robbie Nielsen's game plan. He knew what he was doing, gave the right instructions clearly, and put out an 11 and a tactical approach that shut this team down. And that was really, really impressive to see. So kudos to him too, because he'll be the unsung hero of this one as well.
Yeah, well, it's it's all very well that this has turned out the way that it did. I certainly did not predict it. I know that Eureka predicted a 1-0 win, but I would say that probably a 1-0 win you would expect to be closer than I think this game actually even felt. So that's all something to take into consideration here as we move forward. Carlos, do you have
Yeah.
anything else before we move into the man of the match?
No, I will say, just kind of to wrap up my thoughts, like to add on what you were saying, you said it was a pretty comfortable game. There's very few 1-0 like leads. Like we were leading 1-0 for what? I can't do math. 50-ish minutes, a little less than 50 minutes. It was a very comfortable 50-ish minutes, 45 minutes or so between the Cal Jennings first goal and the Damian Rivera second goal. There wasn't an Indy 11 chance in there that I can point to as particularly threatening. It was comfortable the whole way through, and I think the Damian Rivera goal kind of just put the nail in the coffin on that one. I think if it was still 1-0 in the 90th minute, I would have been pretty okay with that. It seemed like we were controlling. I mean, I would have wanted more goals.
Right.
But in terms of like, am I nervous about losing these 3 points? If it kept going at the pace it was going throughout the game, I think I would have been very comfortable in my seat watching that game.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, well, we'll jump into our man of the match, and I will say that Lewis Hilton was on the USL Team of the Week, so congratulations to him. However, I guess we can say that he was not either of our man of the match. So, Carlos, I'll let you start it.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say Lewis Hilton had a fantastic game as well. Certainly
He did,
deserves it.
absolutely.
And if he's on the USL Team of the Week, then I don't think he needs to be on the RBLR Team of the Week. But my player of the match, my man of the match, was of course Cal Jennings. He scored the game winner. I really can't like overemphasize how insane that goal is. It was such a lovely goal and really set the tempo for the rest of the game. Because, like I said, if things went slightly differently, if that goal isn't so perfect, it's still 0-0 throughout the rest of the first half and into the second half. It can be a totally different game. One Indy 11 chance, and the game flips on its head. Indy 11 puts that goal in right before the Cal Jennings opportunity, and it's a different game entirely. They go up 1-0 before us. That goal, despite how controlled we had the game, that goal was a crucial one. So you don't want to control a game so much, but still have it be 0-0 in the 80th minute, right? You need that goal to fall. And it wasn't an easy one. It wasn't one of the, open play opportunities we had. It was a lovely set piece corner, set piece goal that he just took over and made it happen off of clearly some sort of tactical game planning for that type of corner. So kudos to him. Kudos to Robbie Nielsen, whoever's making those set piece tactics. Cal could have had easily at least one more goal.
Yeah.
So he's creating the chances, and it's crazy to think that even if he converts like half of the big clear chances, I mean, the goals he could have by the end of this year, numbers wise, are insane.
Yeah.
Nick Marcanic, who we're playing this weekend, Marcanic, yeah. He's obviously having a legendary season with how many goals he's producing, but man, like if Cal puts in like just half of the insane big chances he's had, like he is not going to be too far behind by the end of the year.
Yep, I agree with that. On the other side of things, my man of the match is Jordan Doherty again. So last week it was Cal and Jordan Doherty, and this week it is Cal and Jordan Doherty from the RBLR crew. But Jordan Doherty was just sensational in this game for me. I always tend to highlight the defenders, but I was really torn between Jordan Doherty and Aaron Guillen up until the second half when Jordan Doherty was involved in one or two. I don't remember exactly what it was, but one or two big breakups of Indy attacks, and he just came in so well. If I can quickly highlight some of his stats, because I do love to do that. Jordan Doherty in this game had 2 chances created, 1 big chance. Just keep that in mind that apparently FOTMob says we created 4 of those and missed all 4. So I don't know exactly what it was. But I really wanted to highlight his defensive side of things. 3 clearances. One of those at least is included in the instance that I'm referring to later in the second half. I don't remember what minute. I should have written that down. 3 headed clearances, 3 interceptions, and 3 recoveries as well. So that's just fantastic work from him. He absolutely stood out. And the only problem that I had with Jordan Doherty in this game was if he keeps playing as well as he is, considering his age, it could be another Connor Antley situation. So I really hope that let's hope he tones it down for a couple of games at least, but a couple of games when we don't have to worry about the other team scoring. I guess we need him to stick around Tampa Bay for as long as possible.
Absolutely. I hope Connor Antley's doing well, by the way. He's still coming back from that injury.
Yeah.
It came at a tough time, and he was finding his form. Connor Antley, shout out to you. Love you. Legend. Hope you're doing well. Random Connor Antley shout out. But yeah, Jordan Doherty, another great game from him. James, a totally good shout from you on that one. Okay, here we go, James. Before we jump into the Charleston game, it's going to be a fun one to talk about. It's a massive one. Can't say that enough. It's going to be a big one. It's 727 night at the Rowdies this weekend. Beers are $7.27, among other things being $7.27. It's going to be a fun time. And on top of that, it's one of the biggest games of the year at this point. We've had a few big ones. This one's certainly up there for a variety of reasons. But before we talk about any of that, let me give you a quick shameless plug about the RBLR Sports Shop. Liking, subscribing, James, is very, very free. It's so free, it's free. But if you need some new threads, some new clothes, some new merch, you want to support your Tampa Bay sports teams, not just the Rowdies, but the Bucks, the Rays, the Lightning, the Sun now, head over to shop.rblrsports.com and check out all the cool new designs that have been cooked up over there. With the promo code COYR, you can snag a 10% off deal. The link's in the description of this podcast. Go check it out. Go check out some new merch. It's going to be great stuff. I'm sure you need some new gear to wear to the game this Saturday. Make it some fun, hip, cool, trendy RBLR Sports Shop merch. Okay, James, shop.rblrsports.com. It's a great place. An even better place is Al Lang Stadium this weekend on Saturday as the Rowdies host the Charleston Battery at 7:30. It's going to be a big one. Like I said, 727 night. There's great deals. It's going to be a fun game. But again, it's a massive, massive one because Charleston are 5 points ahead at this moment in time. We have a game in hand. We can bring that gap down to just 2 points and still have that game in hand. That's huge.
Yeah.
Huge. Louisville's not that far ahead of us too, guys, by the way. They're only 6 points ahead of us. It's 2 wins. I've said, I think just a couple of weeks ago, I thought the race for first place might be over. It seems like Louisville's dominating. We might be slowly falling behind, but somehow, some way, the Rowdies seem to prove me wrong every once in a while and get back into the mix. So they're not only in the mix for just second place here, they can make them serious ground second place, but they can get back into that race for that first place spot against Louisville. Massive opportunity. Tomorrow on Wednesday, when this podcast comes out, so today when you hear this, Charleston traveled to Loudoun United for another game. Their travel is certainly going to help us out a bit. Loudoun is not particularly far from Charleston, but it's still more it's still more travel that they have to do that we don't. So they're going to get here a bit more tired with another game having been played with a bit more travel. We're going to be rested up at home in the great city of Tampa or St. Pete if you live over there. Tampa Bay, not say Tampa, whatever, you know what I'm saying. My point is Charleston's going to be playing a game that we don't have to play, and that's good for us. They've had Adam Grinwise in net with Nathan Dos Santos, Graham Smith, Leland Archer, and Mark Segbers at the back. And in front of them, they've had Chris Allen, Aaron Malloy, who will sit behind Juan Torres, Arturo Rodriguez, and Nick Markanek, the player of the year so far in the NFL. Clearly, MD Myers is also likely to start. They have 2 main scorers, obviously Markanek being one of them. He has 18 goals. Insane.
That's a crazy number.
Yeah, insane level of productivity from him at this halfway point in the year. He's on track, what does that mean? Like just under 36 goals. Like it's a little more than halfway through. That's incredible. That pace is not sustainable, so hopefully it falls off eventually. Kyle Jennings will certainly not be too far behind if he keeps up his pace. All that being said, they also have a goal scorer on 9 goals on top of that. So a really, really dangerous attacking team. Rodriguez also leads in assists, by the way, with 4 assists. Aaron Malloy has the most chances created. Plays a lot like Lewis Hilton does. We've said this before when we played him when he's at Memphis. Very similar play styles there. The points of danger are obvious here. So Malloy's going to create these opportunities, and the players on the wings are speedy enough to get the ball to these really, really dangerous goal scorers. Marcanic is insane. So obviously we know, I think we know what we have to do. I think Charleston knows that we know what we have to do, but they don't care.
Right.
They're just going to go in and play the game that has won them so many games already this year. A challenge for Robbie Nielsen, certainly. But I think in that way makes it a little bit easier to diagnose what you're going to have to do. So maybe a positive there. We know we have to do. Let's go see if we can actually do that. Certainly a great week of training this week coming up for that. Hopefully they work on that exclusively, figuring out how to shut down these guys, Marcanic in particular. Okay. Shut them down and we get the win, James. James, it's a big one here. An opportunity to make up some ground on this team that will have 2 games in hand on by the time they play us on Saturday. Having played this game against Loudoun, so hopefully Loudoun knocks off some points from them as well.
That'd be nice.
Yeah, Loudoun, please. That'd be really great of you. James, how are we feeling about this one? Give me your thoughts on this, and then give me your prediction about how you think it will ultimately go out and play out.
Yeah, well, this comes down to, as we have already said, Aaron Malloy and then the wingers. Those are going to be the big things here. So do we try specifically to shut down Aaron Malloy? If we do, that's going to require somebody effectively sit on him at all times. So Manuel Arteaga usually is the number 9. He plays as the number 9. Is he going to drop a little bit deeper? And instead of occupying the center backs at all times, is he going to just sit in the middle and kind of make life hard for Aaron Malloy? Or is that going to be the job of Josh Perez / Cal Jennings, depending on which side he's a little bit closer to? More than likely, it'll ultimately come to some variation of all 3 of them. And I can imagine seeing all of them trying to step in and press him or try and prevent them from having the chance to ever pass the ball to Aaron Malloy in the first place. So I imagine that we will be doing a fair amount of pressing from our when we do not have the ball. When we're out of possession, we will be doing some pressing and trying to prevent them from getting that chance. But regardless, Aaron Malloy is good enough that he will have the ball at some point in this game where he will be able to go and try and find somebody who's going to be out on the wings. And that's going to be, again, Nick Marcanic and Juan Torres are going to be the higher players. Nathan Dos Santos is the left back. He's not very attacking, so that's not something to particularly worry about there. But the other side is Mark Segbers. He is quite attacking, so he will be the right back who bombs down the wing. And that likely means that Nick Marcanic will start as the right winger, but shift a lot more into the middle of the field, where he will be able to not only create chances for MD Myers, but obviously try to score a lot himself. So clogging the midfield is also going to be very interesting here. If the Rowdies decide that they want to play their usual game, then we will, of course, see Josh Perez and Danny Crisostomo as the 2 midfielders ahead of Lewis Hilton. If maybe we go for something that's a little more defense-minded, something that would be a little more accommodating of Charleston and trying to stop the battery as opposed to trying to create for the Rowdies, then we might see Nate Worth move back into the midfield, or maybe even Blake Bodley now that we've seen that. I guess that's a possibility too. However, I would be shocked if Eddie Manjoma does not start as the left wing back, just because he is the more defensive-minded player. You probably want to have somebody who is defense first in this game. Not that Blake Bodley isn't a very good defender, but Eddie Manjoma is just naturally more defensive. Honestly, if Blake Bodley does start, based off of the last game, we might actually see him take up the same role that he did at the end of this past game versus Indy 11. Because, again, getting 3 points in this one, just like it was against Indy 11, the amount of ground that we can create, the amount of ground that we can make up in this case, I guess it was putting in between us when we were playing Indy. That was crucial. The amount of ground that we can make up if we beat Charleston in this game, it's going to be absolutely immense for the rest of this season, because Charleston have the space in between themselves and us right now, where if they mess up, it's not that big of a deal. If they even go to Loudoun and lose, which I would doubt, but if they did, they would still be relatively okay, at least for the time being. So if we can beat them here, that just, it's so important for us to keep that in mind. And that is where I don't know if Robbie wants to, like I said, possibly shore up the center of the midfield a little bit more, and use somebody who's a little more defense minded, or if he thinks that the Rowdies are good enough on their own to execute and shut down Charleston simply by being the better team and possessing the ball more. We have seen the Rowdies do that against Louisville City. The 2 goals that we gave up against Lou City were both set pieces. If we can avoid giving up set piece goals, that would be great in general, not just this weekend, in general. But yeah, so I will be interested to see exactly what tactic he takes. I put quotes over that for anyone who is not watching us on YouTube. But if he does want to go a little bit more defensive and a little bit more accommodating of Charleston, or if he does want to go the way that the Rowdies will play, the way that the Rowdies create the best, then we will see Josh Perez and Danny Crisostomo take up their usual positions and try to create down the left and the right, respectively. So, yeah, all of that is what we need to watch out for in this game. Like I said, Nick Markanich, though, he's the danger man. Carlos, we have seen him score some incredible goals this season. I think that they have been Sports Center top 10 goals. The, CBS Golasso Network. They do a top 10 every week, and Nick Markanich has made that list. He is absolutely on fire, and he's going to be the main guy that everyone needs to keep an eye on. But we do have the ability to shut him down. We have the defenders to do that. Execution is going to be the key here, and if we play to our game, then we can win this game. So if we're moving straight into predictions, I will give my prediction here as a win, and I will give this I will say a 1-0 win for us.
Yeah, that's a good prediction, James. I mean, like we said, we know where their main points of attack and their main threats are here. Charleston is undefeated in their last, 5 games. That includes 2 draws and 3 wins. Draw with Phoenix Rising away and with Hartford Athletic away. It was a 2-2 draw. The wins were a 5-2 win against North Carolina, 2-0 win against Birmingham, and a 2-0 win most recently against Miami. And by the way, I don't know if I missed something, but what the hell is this with Loudoun United playing Charleston Battery at 11 a.m. tomorrow?
I believe that's just a mistake. I think it's starting later in the night.
Okay, yeah.
But I also saw that, and I was like, why is that happening?
Yeah, I don't know if this is all right. Well, whatever. Regardless of whether they play at 11 a.m. or 7 p.m., it'll be an extra game they have to play. Nick Markanich has scored in the last 4 games in a row, so he's certainly on fire. There was a pretty, I'm not going to say significant, there was a gap of like 4 or 5 games where he didn't score, which is like significant for him because he seems like he scores every game.
Right.
So teams have shut him down in the past. It's not like it's impossible. And teams that are worse than us have done that. You know, Pittsburgh, Monterey Bay, El Paso went away over there to Charleston and beat them 2-1. We can do this. I'm actually fairly confident that we can pull out this win. Charleston is a fantastic team. I think they have their weaknesses just like every other team. I like you said, I'm curious about how Robbie Nielsen approaches this game. I think it's going to be more important to worry about playing our game. I think if we play our game, it'll naturally come that Nick Markanich kind of gets naturally taken out of it. Manjoma certainly should be out there locking him down. I think he can do a really good job of it, and I'm very optimistic about his odds against Nick Markanich. So,
yeah,
like you, I'm going to predict a win. I'm going to predict a ambitious, but I'm just kind of feeling it. An ambitious 3-1 win.
Okay,
is my prediction. Yeah. I'm not saying it's going to be like a blowout or anything. I think that's how I'm feeling. That's where I'm at right now. Yeah, I think we can do it, and I don't see why Manjoma can't shut Markanich down. Manjoma is on a tear defensively. If we can shut him down, we take out their main attacking threat. Yeah, and again, they're going to play this extra game tomorrow / today when you hear this. I think all these factors will kind of come into play. I think the Rowdies know how big a game this is, just like they knew how big a game it was against Indy. Maybe that motivates them, lights a fire under them a bit. We know we can play up to the competition we play against, and we know we've certainly seen us play down a competition.
Yeah,
I think we'll play up to the importance of this game and come out with a big win. 3-1 is, I know it's ambitious. I'm feeling it, so let's go with it for now.
If you're feeling it, you got to go with it. That's
Yeah,
how I look at it.
absolutely.
But all right, those are our predictions, and now we will move into our extra time segment. And we got to hit on this one first, of course. Charlie Dennis. It was a bit of a surprise. I think it took a lot of fans by surprise, especially. I talked myself through it as we did the pregame show. Again, Eureka from Barry House there, and me sitting in my COVID dungeon here at home. But yeah, Charlie Dennis was injured during the parts of the season where Josh Perez and Danny Crisostomo really made themselves indispensable to Robbie Nielsen. In that way, it just got to be the case that ultimately it's not that he wasn't needed, but other players were more important. So I'm assuming that this position will ultimately be filled. And by position, I mean more depth in the Josh Perez and Danny Crisostomo roles.
Yeah.
But Charlie Dennis is a lot more at home as a number 10 than he is in these new roles that Perez and Crisostomo are playing, where they are kind of the guys who are assistants to the wingbacks, and they help with they help create on either one wing or the other with the guys who are out there. So it's usually, and I guess we say this every week, but it's usually Danny Crisostomo, Pacific Nyongabire, and Jordan Doherty on the right side. Obviously, Lewis Hilton helps out with that. And then on the left side, it's Aaron Guillen. It's been recently Eddie Monjoma and Josh Perez. And again, Lewis Hilton helps out with that. Danny, those two play very well in those two spots. And Charlie Dennis isn't bad in those roles, but he's certainly not as good as they are. So if that's the case, and he is not getting the playing time that he feels is requisite, then I guess moving on, unfortunately, does become the better option at times. And maybe that was just what happened here.
Yeah. Yeah. Like you said, it kind of just felt like he was not the go-to man anymore for a variety of reasons. He was also been coming back from that injury that kind of affected him slightly. MVP caliber player last season. So I don't see why he wouldn't be able to rekindle that form at a system that currently fits his play style a bit better. Good luck to him. He was truly a fantastic player. He filled in so well for Leo Fernandez last year. Just when we thought Leo Fernandez was going to be the guy, he went down, and Charlie Dennis needed to be the guy, and he stepped up and certainly was the guy. So he played a fantastic year last year. That certainly won't be forgotten by me anytime in the near future. Kudos to him for that. Good luck to him. I hope he does well. But yeah, it is kind of sad to see him go. And this is coming off of losing another player, Zach Arabo, to Rhode Island. But Charlie Dennis, certainly the more influential player here. But like we said, his role kind of just being phased out slightly on Robbie Nielsen's system. So hopefully we get something out of this. We'll see. But yeah, I think it's mutually beneficial for both sides here, despite being sad about it.
Yeah, I think that's fair. It's he's still a good player, and that last year, 11 goals and 3 assists as a USL All League first team selection is pretty darn good, but it's probably not going to be the case, of course, at this point in the season that we see that same thing replicated. So I do wish him all the best, as we do every other player, and unfortunate that we didn't have a kind of a number 10 spot for him this year, but that's how it goes. We get some money, I'm assuming. I guess we don't know for sure, and we'll see whatever that goes into as we move along this year. The next point that we get to in extra time is Oklahoma City Energy. They might actually be coming back to the USL Championship. They were sold, I guess, yesterday or the day before to some investment group based in Oklahoma City, and they are some level of richer than the guy that was in charge before. And they have unveiled plans to build a new stadium, because I believe the stadium situation was actually what was keeping them from playing, as weird as that sounds, that there isn't somewhere they could go in all of Oklahoma City. Not that I've been there, but still a little weird. Either way, I do hope that they come back. I do hope that they come back to the USL and they get involved playing Tulsa. That'd be great. Yep. It would be good to see them.
Yep. Bring back Ryo KC, though. I miss them. I miss the Miss the goofiness of that team. Yeah, good stuff. I actually missed this
Yeah.
entirely, so that's good to see for sure. Good luck to them. Yeah, it was a cool brand, cool team, pretty established fan base too. I mean, it's kind of sad for them that they just kind of got their team ripped away from them temporarily. Hopefully, it's temporarily. Yeah, another news, more Rowdies related here, James. The CONCACAF U20 Championship is going on right now, and you might be thinking to yourself, if you're rather uninformed, like I was pretty recently, what the hell does that have to do with the Rowdies, Carlos? Well, James, I'll tell you what that has to do with the Rowdies right now. It's Christian Ortiz, the main man himself, the academy player turned pro, is playing for the Dominican Republic in the CONCACAF U20 Championship. Their first game was a loss, but they do have 2 more chances, 2 more games to play. Hopefully that has goals in store for Christian Ortiz. Good stuff for him. Good opportunity. Increases his stock as well here, by the way. Getting some international duty, international minutes, even with the U20 team. There's good stuff for the Rowdies and good stuff for him. So good luck to him. Good luck to the Dominican Republic in this championship. Hope to see goals for them and for him in particular.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw that game, Carlos, but they played their first one. It was a 1-0 loss to El Salvador, which was very unfortunate because that seems like possibly one of the more winnable games for them. And they played in effectively a monsoon on a field that was a huge puddle. If you are listening to this, go look at the highlights because you legitimately do. Whatever you're expecting, you are not expecting enough water on the field. It was crazy that this game was allowed to be played based on the rain that they were dealing with, but that's neither here nor there. We wish Christian Ortiz the best. He almost scored even within that rain once or twice, and I'm sure that he will before this tournament is over. We wish him, again, all of the best. Finally, the Olympics start this week, and Olympic soccer actually starts today. If you're listening to this on Wednesday, the men's tournament starts today. I believe the women's tournament starts tomorrow, which would be Thursday. Again, if you're listening to this when it comes out. And we support the U.S. team on both sides. Unfortunately, Ecuador didn't make it to this one, but we do at least have a men's representative in the Olympic tournament. That's usually not always the case, but the women are probably the most likely of the two to go and challenge for a gold medal, and I would love to see them do that.
Yeah, for sure. I fully don't know how Olympic qualifying works. I couldn't even tell you why Ecuador didn't qualify or who was playing for that. I really don't know, but I just know I love soccer and I will be watching because it's soccer. I know the U.S. team, the men's team, is a little wackily put together.
Yeah,
So I'm excited to see what they put together. Frankly, I'll tell you what, James. I know it's a soccer podcast, but this is a really unnecessary tangent. I'm really excited for the U.S. basketball team.
Okay.
That tournament is going to be really interesting. If you care about basketball at all, it's going to be really fun to watch because recently they've been just barely scraping by other countries in these preseason friendlies. Against South Sudan, they only won by 1 point. Against Germany, they just won by like 4 points. They lost. They barely beat Canada. The rest of the world is catching up in basketball, and I think it's pretty fun to have another international sport like that. The rest of the world is catching up on. It'll make for a good tournament. So, soccer is gonna be good. Basketball will be good for the Olympics. I'm just so excited for the Olympics in general, James. It's gonna be a good time. But
we need to do an RBLR Olympics at some point. Maybe that's what we need to have.
For sure. I'll shut my mouth there because I could ramble about the Olympics. I'm so excited. I really am.
All right. Well, we will wait until RBLR Olympics is put together. But in the meantime, thank you, listeners, for tuning in this week. We appreciate, of course, always when you do that. Please follow us on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, Facebook, Threads, anywhere at RBLR Sports. I am mostly on Twitter at RBLR James K. What about you, Carlos? At
Carlos GPA 10 on Twitter. Follow me. I'm going to be watching all the Olympic stuff. Rugby, soccer, basketball, friggin' swimming,
3v3 basketball.
I'm gonna watch all of it. So come watch it with me. Let me talk about it to you. Handball is so fun to watch. Oh my god, if you've never seen handball, it's so fun to watch. I'm gonna watch Samoa versus Kenya rugby sevens because I can. It's gonna be so much fun. Oh, I'm so excited. And please like and subscribe to our podcast. Of course, you can get the full experience on YouTube. But if you just want to listen to us, we are also on the iHeartRadio app, Spotify, Apple, and Google Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. Thank you for tuning in this week. We won. We're going to win again this week. That's what I'm saying it. Come on, you Rowdies.
Thank you for tuning into this presentation by RBLR Sports. On your way out of the stadium, please remember to like and subscribe.